7:00 and I'm calling to order this community housing board meeting. So the first item is we have community minutes. So if everybody could take a little look, let I don't know if we have any edits.
Motion to approve.
Oh, does anyone feel
Second.
Oh, all in favor? Aye, okay. So approved, I love it. Peter, as a tricky move, I put you on here to talk about the ADU +1 update since you were on the call.
What I remember, sure.
Okay, cool, excellent. Basically we had a call, it was like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yes, I was like, I don't even, time is a flat circle. And so we're now at monthly meetings where we're talking to them about application status. I believe we're at 12 with 2 waiting or 2 in
That still have
process.
to be confirmed, correct.
Okay, so 12.
When you say 12 confirmed.
12, yeah, so we have 12 people that the zoning is right and they qualify. And then we have 2 people that are kind of like in the vetting process. So for that's, all in, that's 14 of 16.
Right.
So cool. We have 6 in the actual talking about what exactly are they going to do and how much is it going to cost and like what is the permits. And so we have, does that seem right, Peter?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, this is like kind of 6 that are like farther along in the
The
process.
6 are a subset of the 12?
Yes, exactly. So out of the 12, like 6 are like,
Oh, so
we're
that's
talking
not that.
about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry. So out of the 12 that like, we know they're zoned,
They qualify.
they're qualified.
Yeah.
There's half of that number are like, exactly what we're doing. Like, we're ready to talk to the building department and an architect.
Wow. That's really moved fast.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, so, I think that the thing to know is, I was actually just talking to Coco and she was like, should we do a push to push more, to get more applications?
Mm-hmm.
And the CDCLI was like, we are happy to take more applications, but maybe we'll just give it a beat. Because
Yeah.
there's like, I think they were a little surprised by how many went through. And
Yeah.
so, and Mark and I were just talking about a certain application. I think that they may be a little, they were surprised by the volume. So maybe we'll wait a second. We do have 2 years on this. And let them catch up and make sure that they're really giving their attention to those.
Can I ask of 12 and 2, how many applications started at the funnel to get to 12 and 2? Or is everybody sort of understood what the requirements were and there wasn't many who sort of put a request in that was denied?
I actually don't know how many got denied, because we turned them away pretty quickly within an initial,
Wrong spot or wrong income?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Most of the folks, honestly, were in the nearshore overlay. That was most of why we
Had to return them.
turn people away. I mean, not all, but majority of just like who I've talked to in the community and talking with CDCLI.
What does the +1 mean? ADU +1?
The name of the grant?
It's called +1?
Yeah, it's called the ADU +1 grant. I don't know, that's just what they named it. I'm assuming that it's for the house represents the main house.
Got
Who can fathom? Why? I was like, that is a pretty meta question.
It's a wedding.
I was like, is that a trick?
Who's the +1?
Who's the +1? I don't know.
Okay. Well, that sounds really positive.
Yeah.
Are we still ahead of all the other towns?
For overachievers.
Mm-hmm.
And just, we won't go into it, but, Mark brought up to me a community member that kind of came to them with some questions about the grant, who's pretty far into the grant cycle. And so I'm gonna take those questions back to CDCLI and just make sure that we have robust answers.
Yeah, I think the timing of revealing or making sure that they understand how much they are actually likely to receive.
Well, I think the important thing is I think that there's some semantics around
Yes.
how much is available for hard construction costs is I think actually what you are
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
And so how do we make sure that CDCLI is communicating effectively through all these steps,
Yeah,
especially with the volume that we've thrown at them?
yes.
So maybe there's some help that we need to give them or some feedback. So I appreciate the feedback that you brought. I will go ahead and turn around and bring that to Gwen tomorrow and her team
Okay,
and see how we can reach out and make sure that we're, or not us, but make sure that just like our community members are getting the information they need, especially about like, is it taxable? How does it work? Like, you
Right.
know, those kind of answers. And then also just to understand all the costs that would go into creating the ADU and kind of how that breaks out. I think
Yes.
that people, in fairness, I think they hear the 125 and they think, I have exactly 125, you know, like that I will
That's-
spend on like lumber and da 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 da,
without
which
a
is
doubt,
like,
that is what this individual was thinking, like,
yeah,
okay, I've got this plan, it's gonna cost X dollars, this will cover that, and I'll have to come up with the rest without any consideration for all the other fees.
Yeah.
Septic is another thing, he's gotta upgrade the septic to accommodate this.
yeah, yeah.
But that's a.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing is I think that what we can do is make sure that CDCLI is like communicating effectively and give them feedback. And that's not happening, especially early in the process. And then also, just to be super real, and Peter, you were there, you know, there's gonna be projects that people wanna do that this isn't gonna cover, and there's gonna be people that they're gonna shake out of this process.
Yeah, right.
That it's just, this isn't for everybody, this isn't gonna be the solution for everybody, so I think that what we wanna do is make sure that they understand that as quickly as possible, so
Right.
we're not wasting anybody's time.
Yeah.
What is the process with CDCLI? Is there the application goes into them and then are you made aware of it? Is there someone locally who can sort of be a chaperone or something for the process?
Yeah, they did hire someone locally who's been going out to do basically like that. Once it gets through like, oh, you financially qualified and like the zoning makes sense. They have somebody who's on their building team that looks at it. And then if they're like, makes sense, they send out. Peter, do you remember who it is? I'm like totally blanking.
I don't.
Okay. He used to work in the planning department here.
Oh, Chris.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. It was like in my mind and then it was gone. So they hired him on a contract basis, basically just to like liaise with their
Perfect.
building person and also to do the site visits and like just somebody who kind of like knows,
Right.
right?
Great.
Yeah, so you're trying to do it is, you know. Peter, can you think of anything else from that ADU meeting?
No, you know, a couple of them, the applications were just finishing off like the basement lower level, which of course is going to be a lot less money than
Yeah.
building a brand new freestanding unit. So there were a couple of those. Then when, if they want to build a freestanding unit, a couple of the applications are very small parcels. So we have to look into lot coverage on those. But they're all pretty, you know, doable.
And Peter's been rad just because like they're, just Peter, you know, literally every lot on this island. And so their building guy, you know, it's like in the first meeting and he's like, oh, wait a minute, that lot, there's the coverage and da 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 da. And they're like, hold, like, let me get the guy and bring him in here. And he like brings out everything and Peter has been walking him through the lot. So mostly on the calls, it's just Peter giving feedback and I just sit there and take notes. just so we're clear what's actually happening every single week. It's like it's kind of rad. Okay, RFP
Yes.
update. Just a quick note on our agenda. Fran messed up his schedule, so we're not gonna do number 7 because
Okay.
Fran's not here.
All right.
So we'll just like come back to it. If he has some cool ideas to present
Great.
to us. Okay,
RFP.
RFP, man. Okay, so we've learned some things. So we had some initial learning, and I know that I spoke to everybody before, like in between this. So we were able to have our council look at the draft RFP that we put together. We have some things that we learned right away. The first thing we learned was, this is like kind of small potatoes. I mean, substantial, but like to make sure that we conform to Wick's law, we need to separate out the RFP. And it kind of needs to be parceled out, like electrical, general contractor, right? So it needs to not just be like one thing. It needs to have like each of the kind of subcontractors. I'm grossly paraphrasing here, but you get the idea, right? It can't just be one big RFP with everything in it. It has to be by the sub trades, right?
Okay.
The other big thing that I learned that I know we talked about was that we had been imagining that we could do it as a design build,
Right.
right? Like that's how we'd been really thinking about it. And what we learned was that we cannot do it as a design build because there is some New York state law that we can't do it. Okay, that's what it is. So it definitely took, I was like kind of taken aback because that definitely was a big piece of the process of how we were thinking about it. So basically what that means is that we would have to have the design first to inform the specifics into the building part of the RFP.
Okay.
So, and I remembered a conversation that I had with you, David, about like, hey, have we thought about doing pre-designed plans?
Right.
And then David and I had a call, and then we kind of know how that unfolded. So we decided to kind of pursue the direction of looking at pre-designed plans with the idea that obviously it would be more economical. It's a cheaper option because if we can't fold the design into the RFP, we need to come out of pocket. Now, do we have cash in our account? Yes, we do. Would it be cool to spend as little of it as possible so that we can do other stuff? Also, yes. So basically we're going to be looking at, for now, our kind of current direction is to kind of look at pre-designed plans that we could use to inform the design. David's going to be kind of talking about that next, but that was kind of the big thing. And because it was such a big change in direction, that's why we all spoke. And then I also went to the town board and just let them know immediately that there was this kind of like pivot in how we were approaching it, just because I know it's been on our minds. So I just wanted to just be as super transparent as we possibly could about like where we're at and how we're thinking about it, because it is a big change from what our original understanding is.
So it also means then that it's a complete revision of what we had drafted?
No,
Okay.
not necessarily a complete revision, but there's definitely, obviously the parts that refer to design will all come out.
Right.
And the specifics, once we are able to select a design and we can kind of talk about ideas and how we think that process would be, that's kind of what I'm hoping to get into tonight.
Okay.
Who gets to pick the design? I mean,
That's,
is there a legal framework or,
I would imagine that we would make some suggestions and we would, that's kind of, Amber, I'm open.
We have to look into that. and
Yeah.
get with legal counsel, so I know
Yeah,
that's
so-
further down the list.
Yeah, so, but I would think that we would be responsible for, at the very least, curating a very short list.
Yeah.
And giving recommendations. I don't think that
Yeah.
that's something that the town board or anybody else has bandwidth or you know, I mean, that's
That's
what we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's, and kind of
Okay.
two, you know, the other thing is like, you know, I am kind of trying to push on getting at least the parts of the RFP sorted that we can sort out, especially there's some questions. I know that Brandon and I had, as we were working on it, of like how to articulate our expectations around how like rentals would be maintained. Like I know that, like I know enough to know that there's like certain legal language that needs to be put in there, and
Got it.
I don't feel it's adequately fleshed out in what we have, so that's definitely something that could be worked on even while we're figuring
This other
stuff out.
Okay.
Because some of that stuff exists. Bill is gonna have an update after we talked to David, about, you know, one of the things we had kind of talked about was, this is very specific housing law. And also this is like kind of a weird deal, you know, like it's cool, it's specific, but it's not necessarily the norm in our area. So we need some probably advanced counsel. And so, Bill's reached out, we, talked to some outside counsel, so we have some folks that we think might be able to come in and work with us, but Bill will tell us about that in a minute. David.
One quickie before David goes on that,
Yeah.
that I had thought of afterwards, and I don't expect that anyone has an answer, but
Yes.
that we should have as a question,
Yeah.
prospectively, is we will come up with a design, the town board will hopefully sign off on a
Yeah.
design. When we put the RFP out to the builders, what leeway do the builders have to suggest modifications to the design that we have put out? Because they may come up with good suggestions.
Sure.
And so I had thought of that after our last phone call with Miriam, and
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because like, where does full design start and where does modification begin?
Yeah.
right,
I think that's a good lead.
right. I don't expect anyone knows the
Yeah.
answer, but I think we have to keep that as a question that we need to ask as we go forward with
Well,
this.
having the flexibility to be iterative, if somebody comes up with a
Right.
good idea,
You want to be
may
able
have to
to.
say no.
Right.
Yeah, no, that
that's-
doesn't make
It
sense.
sounds idiotic, but
Right.
government has been idiotic in the past.
Not in my lifetime.
We're not that government.
So,
Okay, good.
That's a great question. That's a really good question.
Can you put the thing up on the screen that I sent you? Maybe that's just people some overview, because as far as designs go, I just got back from a conference earlier this week on build for rent communities. And there was a projected $87 billion of capital sitting on the sidelines to go build every build to rent kind of house out there in America 2 years ago, and everybody's dead now. So there are lots of plans, there are lots of projects. The timing of this is very unfortunate because interest rates have gone up, construction costs have not come down, and rent growth is flat to going down. So we're coming into this. I know I'm supposed to be talking about design, but the realities are we're coming into this in a phase in the cycle where the economics just stink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
And-
think that with the, like, potentially if we were able to secure that $2 million, does that change the economics?
Well, yeah, obviously, it's gonna meaningfully impact it, right? But the cost to get a construction loan has gone up by about 500 basis points in a year and a half. And so the good news is, because it was so much money, there are plans aplenty for us to pick from. And I can walk through that a little bit. And I do think that, if you think of Lennar and Pulte and all the home builders, where you can go on the web and sort of pick your plans, and for a couple grand, buy it. And then the town has to stamp those plans and approve them. And I assume we can get the town to waive that cost. It's not going to be an expensive process. The same is true for build to rent, which has some unique qualities to it that I think we should consider when picking the design, just from a lower the maintenance costs of a property. If you're going to buy it and live in it, you're going to have a different design than if you're going to buy it and rent it and have people moving in and out. So that's just the primer. And if we go to the next page, from a look standpoint, we can get anything that looks good in Hawaii to Alaska to Maine to whatever we want. So from an elevation point of view, I don't think we need to necessarily worry about getting something that we like. There's plenty out there that sort of, I think people would say are consistent with the optics of island life. Yeah, community, that's a great way of putting it. In general, these designs are smaller. You get diminishing returns for the bigger houses. We probably want to focus on houses that have, utilities and fixtures that have good warranties on them versus just cheap stuff.
Yes.
Because making sure that the maintenance costs are low is going to be critical from the operator's perspective. There are designs where, for instance, the water heater is accessed through a panel on the outside, so the homeowner does not have to be home if something needs to be fixed. So I think there's a lot for us to pick from.
Okay.
And different looks. So I think we're good there. If we want to go to the next slide. This is just an example of something. It's a way to, this is as simple as I could kind of find. It's a 2-unit house. So that's
So this
for
would be,
two 1-bedrooms.
yeah, so this would be potentially, so we would be looking
It's
at,
like a duplex.
yeah, and it, like, maybe not like something like this. We could be looking at 3 something like this for the South Ferry site. Got it.
Correct. And so the choice you have in something like this, just in general, is you can either have 2 1-bedroom units in the exact same structure from an exterior perspective, where you get rid of that center wall and have one less kitchen, and you end up with a 2-bedroom
2-bedroom, got it.
unit. So it's for all intents and purposes the same building, it's just lacking the wall. Again, this plan costs, I think, $1,800 to buy the plans for. So these aren't expensive, readily available. It's designed for rental housing, and some of the design elements that you can't really tell from this are the doors typically are wider because you're moving furniture in and out on a
It's
move
also good
out.
for disability. If you have somebody who has a wheelchair or something like that, so they conform to ADA, right?
Well, it's not necessarily ADA, and I don't think we have to be ADA, but it's done for the economics of if a year later you're moving your couch out, you have a wider door
Interesting.
so you're not denting it.
Yeah, interesting. Or cutting the couch in half.
Or cutting the couch in half, right? So, very, very simple. There are plenty of designs. If we want to go to the next slide. This is just another one that gives you a little bit more feel for the inside. Again, the same concept. It can either be a 1 or 2-bedroom house, 600 square feet. That's pretty much what an average apartment is, 1-bedroom apartment is.
That's nice.
And again, with the flexibility of being 2, but it's designed and constructed for rental. The flooring, as a for instance, is tougher flooring. We have the advantage of, we'd be buying 6 refrigerators at once instead of 1 refrigerator, 6 times. So getting the economies of scale that way. This design, again, comes in about 7 different fronts, elevations. So again, don't get caught up in
Minutia of it.
what it looks like, because you can make this same interior design look whatever you want. A big trend is get as much light in the building as possible.
Yeah.
Make the ceilings higher so
Yeah.
that they feel spacious, even though they're relatively small.
Yeah.
And make, we're gonna have plenty of outdoor space. So if you have vistas and high ceilings, you can make 600 square feet feel bigger than it actually is.
Wouldn't you say also, though, just thinking about if we did like 1 unit that is 2 one-bedrooms and 1 that is 2 bedrooms, so that you'd have a mix of, you could have family that
Well,
has
here's-
kids or singles,
I
you know
love
what I
the
mean?
idea. So, but one of the things where we are constricted
Mhm.
is that at the South Ferry site, currently, our preliminary approval that we have from Suffolk Board of Health
Mhm.
would be the maximum that we could put there would be 6 one-bedrooms.
I
So,
see.
so what the thinking was is to put 6 one-bedrooms there to
Okay.
maximize. And then at the Van Marion North Ferry site, we could put, 2 two-bedrooms there
Got it.
to be able to accommodate households with, more than like a single or a couple.
Uh-huh.
So we wouldn't be, I don't think, with our current lots that we have available to maximize the amount of units,
Mm,
we probably wouldn't be able to do mixed
mm.
bedrooms. But
I only say that because it just to create an environment in which you don't have all the same kinds of families in one place.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
I totally hear you. I think that the tricky part would be is if we were gonna do that, then we would have to have less units.
And that's.
And then we go below the 10.
Yeah,
and
anything less is-
everything- Yeah. and then
Anything
everything-
less and then we're screwed.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean,
Got it.
a
Yeah,
different lot, a different time.
right.
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Can you put an ADU on this? When in you laugh, but in California, that's how they're getting higher density, is to
Yeah, they have it all over
develop
the
this
place.
with the ADUs.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
So,
And some of them are super cute. They
Yeah.
look really great.
and this in essence is an ADU.
It
An
is.
ADU with a +1.
It is the plus one, yeah.
All right, if go to the next slide.
Another
This is another this is a 2-unit, 2-bedroom.
Mhm.
So this would be potentially, we could look at potentially something like this for Van Waring
Got it.
and North Ferry.
Mhm.
So it's 900 square feet versus about 650 for a single bedroom.
Mhm.
It's a little bit bigger. The price tag on building this outside of land and outside of shelter island costs, so is probably somewhere in the 250,000-ish range per door.
Wow, okay.
So sort of $500,000,
Mhm.
but which is expensive. But we would deduct the land, so presumably we're not paying for that.
Right.
But land is probably no more than 10% of
Yeah.
the cost, so it's not a huge part of it. It's just that the construction and materials costs
They're so high.
are so high, and we're not getting any relief because, as Peter probably knows much better than I, there are no homes for sale. And so the home builders, even though interest rates have gone up, are selling homes because you have a 3% mortgage and you're not going to move. And so if you have to move, there's not existing inventory for you to buy. And so you're going to Toll Brothers, and so they're still doing very well, even though you would think with interest rates at a mortgage at 8%, the home builders are doing poorly, and they're not.
It hasn't seemed to shut down any building on the island. There's
Well, I'm not sure
still-
that's, I think that's a different demographic.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the people who never have to really worry about that, yeah.
The people who don't care about affordable housing.
Right.
And for something like this, what would the design cost be?
This again is 1,500 to
Oh, okay, so
2,500.
So it's in that,
These
it's not
are all-
more because it's, yeah.
If you start getting into two-story houses, it gets a little bit more expensive, but you never get very, very expensive.
I like the price. I like the price.
Phone call to an architect would cost you that much.
Right. I had an experience where I looked online at, to build a garage with an apartment over it. I checked out online, I called a local architect. He came over with his quote and 3 of the properties, structures that I looked at online were his drawings.
Oh, yeah?
He had just printed them off the line.
Oh, so he,
So he
Do
was
the
gonna charge
design.
me his
Yeah.
price for the design that, you know, he
Got it.
was,
yeah,
Oh,
he
wow.
looked on Google the same way I did. So,
it's infuriating.
well, it was,
You could just,
yeah.
yeah. You know how
Anyway,
to work the internet.
Yeah,
we know how to work the internet and there's a process and I'm sure they're better designs than others. And I'm not an engineer, so I don't per se. But the other thing is, the firm I'm working for is in the business of building these and, 150 and 200 units. They're mostly in the Southwest, so from an elevation perspective, I don't think they work. But from an interior design, I think we have 15 or so designs that I'm 88% sure after a 10-minute conversation that we can just, if there's something appealing, there'll be no cost. So,
That's very generous.
It's great.
Thank you.
so I don't know, I think there's one other I added. Yeah, so this is something that I just saw.
It has a
Shelter Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So-
bad. Is it the shingles? Is it the shutters? Is it all of
It's the
it?
cottage
Farmhouse
feel. I mean, you
look,
look-
yeah.
you got them at the pretty one, you got them at the
Yeah.
County Lodge, you got
Yeah.
them over here on the 114, it's like.
Yeah, it looks very, very much of our
So
town.
I thought this looked like Shelter Island. It's gonna be more expensive to build by a little bit, but it's also, at least visually caught my eye.
Yeah.
But again, the plans are not gonna be expensive.
Right.
It's a little bit bigger, but it's also got 3 bedrooms.
Yeah,
And so for a small family, I think this is something that's gonna be more interesting.
yeah.
And, if it's just a single home on a single plot, I thought this was something that we should think about. So,
Definitely
This is
agree.
awesome.
Really nice.
Yeah. I mean, and it just makes me think of like just some of the other examples, like if we were able to put shingles and shutters on them, like you could,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
It's so much like you said about the elevation, David.
No,
but pick a design from an igloo to a teepee, and
Yeah.
there's something for sale at a reasonable price. So
Okay.
I don't think that should be the stumbling block. The question is, what does it cost? And so 1,150 square feet costs, let's say, 300 a foot to build. Excluding the ground, or 350 or some number like that. So that's a price. And the rent is for 3-bedroom, I forget what the Nassau Suffolk limit was. I think it was something like 1,400 or 1,500 a month.
That
Maybe a
sounds
little bit-
very low.
It feels maybe a little bit
I
higher.
think you can go, I think it's higher than that.
That may be the 1-bedroom.
Yeah,
So then it's just a question of the math.
Right, yeah. right.
And then the other question I think we should think about is, if you take snow removal out of it, the town is already providing maintenance for, buildings on the island.
Mhm.
And it's plowing snow and things like that. if I'm the owner and the town said to me, if you're willing to take a sort of below average rate of return, I'm willing to cut the grass, plow the snow, right? Take some of that off. So what is, if it's 2,000 a month, right, is the Nassau Suffolk limit. 2,000, that's 24,000 a year of rent. Can we waive the property tax? Can the town chip in for maintenance and actually do the maintenance or portions of it?
Yeah.
Right, and so I think the difference between the rent and the net operating income, those expense lines, where can we help that investor, aside from grants, which obviously
Yeah.
would, if we can get enough grants, then we should figure out a way to own it in a charitable or trust that
Yeah.
never reverts. But
Yeah,
that aside, still, then that charitable trust would want to say, town, can you plow my driveway and
right.
do those other things? Because I think that's for me personally, would I want to own this and make almost nothing on my money or get a 2-year treasury at 5.25%? And I have to fix the plumbing if someone calls at midnight. So I think if the town already has the people and places to do it, they're maintaining this building, they're maintaining other buildings. Can we approach them about providing services for the owners of this to offset the expenses?
I think that's really, and I think especially if we end up wanting to go for some of these other options, like the 2-story, which might have like a higher build, if we want to lean more into something that might be slightly more expensive, but maybe matches the character, I think that those we can.
You want to hear the numbers, David?
Sure.
So for 2024, fair market rent for a 3-bedroom is $32.46.
$32.46.
That's the fair market.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That's wildness.
And then,
2 bedrooms, 25. 1 bedroom's 2,144.
But that's not, so
these are not for the affordable per
that's not
se.
affordable.
Those are market rent.
That's market.
Oh, okay. I was like,
These are market rent.
That's.
what are we, okay,
What is
never
that?
mind, okay, sorry, I just,
So what can we charge?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely,
So here's the thing.
Not that much.
So here's what I'm thinking, is it seems like to me, the next step, you guys tell me what you think, would be looking through, pulling out like a kind of a subsection to
Yeah.
kind of go, okay, these are some of the things we think are right, looking at where we're leaning towards, what the square footage, how that might affect build costs, like kind of looking at them with the lens on, does this match the island? Math. Going from there.
and efficiency and sustainability.
Efficiency, sustainability, and I think also the thing that, David, you were talking about, I think that they have to, I feel like build to rent just makes the most sense. We should really be concentrating on those designs.
Yeah.
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 Would you be able to send us a link that has all those different possibilities, David, that we can take a look at all of them? Or,
I can, it's gonna be 22 links,
Okay.
but
That's fine.
I can pick some that have a dabble.
that's
They
perfect.
start running, they start looking very similar after a very short amount of time.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or if you were able to kind of curate a little
So
selection that you
this
thought
is
would
gonna be,
you know.
this is all gonna be under section 8.
No,
No.
this is not, we don't qualify for Section 8.
Yeah, we're not gonna do,
We're not doing subsidized tenants. Section 8 used the tenant, not the property.
Is tenant, not the property.
Right, and we're not doing that.
well, we can back into those, I can pull the,
Well, so what is what's capping us from rent?
It's the AMI, adjusted median income, is that what it's called?
Well, there's literally affordable rates set by Suffolk
Yes.
County.
Exactly.
Oh.
But they are.
I thought that was to meet you get the HUD loan if you conform, but I also thought that if you
Oh, yeah.
conform, your tenant had
Yes.
the right to apply for vouchers.
Okay, so, yeah, so there's the rent that we can charge, right? So, we're looking at county funding.
Mhm.
Can I
So-
just interrupt you for 1 minute there?
Yes, please,
Maria,
God,
be-
interrupt
I really don't think we have a choice on whether to accept Section 8 or not.
me. Yeah,
The laws are extremely specific.
Mhm.
And what we don't want is to discriminate anything about that.
Of
If
course.
yeah,
I'm going to give you an example, there's a house for, this is hypothetical, for rent for $6,000 a month. Somebody says, do you accept Section 8? There's no way to say no. If the government's willing to pay $6,000 a month, they have to get the house. So it has nothing to do with the amount of the rent.
yeah.
Right.
So that's like the voucher. So my guess would be is as somebody that we had come in to do these, who've also done other affordable properties, that they would have the ability to take
This is-
Section 8.
Right, this is the law. If a
Yeah, so-
homeowner rents a house for rent, okay, in the newspaper, on the internet, they're the homeowner, they do not have to accept Section 8. If they go through any other agency, Zillow, a real estate office, anything, they have to accept Section 8.
Yeah. But what we're kind of talking about is what the rents would be, not how those rents would be paid.
Right.
So, yeah,
But the
Um,
government will pay if somebody says, I have to live on Shelter Island, there's Section 8, and there's a $6,000 house available for rent, the government's gonna pay it. That's how it works.
So this is saying 2606
That
for
makes sense.
the three bedroom.
Okay, that makes more
That
sense.
sounds like affordable.
Yeah.
And, right, but I think so if we're saying if you have to meet, if you're meeting the income requirements
Right.
Yeah,
and we're limiting the rent, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Based on this.
yeah.
Right.
The reason people do it is because there's funding and HUD and sort of, below
Yeah.
market interest rates. So it would be sort of silly to do it just for the fun of it.
No,
And not afford ourselves the advantages of grants and the other stuff we get. So, and if the person qualifies for Section 8 vouchers, right, that's between them and the government. But then we have to, you're putting that extra onus on the owner operator that they then have to provide income verification that the tenant meets the standards.
Well, that's true whether we do Section 8 or not. I mean,
Right.
We have to.
Well, so here's the other thing that was one of the reasons that I think I'm just so hung up on this 2 million from the county. I know I'm obsessed. But the thing with that is that county, if we were to, or if our potential builder operator was able to do that, then the county would do the income verification for them, for the renters. So they would take on that piece as part of the
Grant process?
yeah, as part of the process.
Okay.
This is
Forever?
all great to talk about. This
Uh-huh.
is something that the town attorney needs to really look into.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
100%.
So, which brings us to,
Outside counsel.
oh, wait, sorry, David, are you done?
Yes, happily.
Okay.
Good job, David. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Good segue, Peter. Yeah. Do you want to talk about?
Yep, you want to give
No.
the context? Okay.
No.
If you recall
Yeah. I was like,
you want to give your voice a rest anyway. At the last meeting, we discussed that it might be appropriate moving forward for this committee to have the ability to retain outside counsel, like some of the other committees in the town does, and that we would have the funds from the referendum that would be able to pay for such counsel.
Yeah.
Liz had come up with some of her connections with a list of a few attorneys. I had reached out to a couple of people I know about this, and I sent out a bunch of emails describing what we're doing, that we had this RFP, and without saying it, recognizing that we are amateurs.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to this aspect of things. The response, well, before we get to that, as I look through the qualifications of the people, because I was able to do some research on the qualifications, there really were only two people that kind of jumped out at me as of all of them, and one in particular. So sent out all these emails, and there were a lot of crickets, people not responding. However, there were two that did respond, one very quickly and very detailed. I have a copy of a response letter, which is 3 pages long.
Yeah.
And happened to have been the one that I thought was the most qualified when I had done the initial research. She has been involved in this for a good 25 plus years. She has a lot of experience both on the procurement and on the affordable housing side of things. The other one didn't give as much information. She also, though, does have an interest. Last week, David, Liz, and I had a Zoom meeting with this individual whose name is Miriam. I thought the meeting was good. We all spoke. We spoke for longer than what we had budgeted time for. And there did seem to be, I thought, a decent connection, something to definitely follow up on. The other person, I'm trying to schedule a Zoom meeting, and its dates have been somewhat more problematic. She is, not that she isn't interested, but I do think we should be meeting with her. I've tried I know you said do it anytime, but I'm not doing it anytime.
Okay.
I'm not, your morning times were not good, and that's when our best times were. So there is a chance for next week. I will be following up a bit. I wasn't able to do anything today because the electrician shut everything off, and I can't do anything in the house. But I hope tomorrow to reach Kathleen again. I think we have somebody good. And
Yeah.
I think that everybody kind of felt good after the conversation. She's not a rookie. I would say she's probably around 60 years of age and has been doing this type of work and has the spark that is committed to this type of stuff. And I think that would be, that would be helpful. She would be involved herself. She would use associates where necessary. It's a boutique type of firm from what I can see. They're out of Garden City, but she's done East End work previously, and she's worked for Southampton in particular.
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure after we speak to Kathleen, who's the next person, what our next steps would be. I don't think it's at this point worth trying to push the other people that didn't respond to respond.
I think when you say boutique, I actually took it to be a good word.
Yes.
Not a 3-person shop. but not 3,000.
Right, no, I would not want a 200, I wouldn't want a
Right.
100-person law firm. I think, a 20-ish size law firm is.
They were
is-
good
is
size, but.
Right for us.
But not too big or too small. They-
And she understands the nature, obviously, of
Yeah.
what we exactly need.
She does, and I think that the thing that I thought was so compelling about speaking to her, I thought she was very engaged. I actually just even found, just because one of the struggles I know we've had is like we have really complicated questions and we're trying to like moving stuff forward, and I just even felt that the fact that she had such a thorough response and so quickly, I was like, yes,
Those
this
are
is
really
all the
good
things that I
signs.
want to see.
And even as we spoke on the phone,
Yeah.
we gave some of the background of what it was.
Mhm.
And one of the most important things from my perspective is don't try to make believe you know more than you know.
Sure.
Admit where you're an amateur.
Yeah.
And that was good. That was good. And she was, and she wasn't saying she knew everything, but her background was
Solid.
was very solid.
Other thing that I thought was really cool about her specific experience, I found really kind, was that she had done a lot of work with municipalities who were starting housing. So
Yes.
she had a
Interesting.
lot of experience
Oh,
kind of
okay.
coaching
She knows
boards.
players too.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, great.
Yes.
We need someone like
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
like show us the ropes. So
Yeah.
I was really impressed with her, so.
Yeah, and to go to kind of where you were on the boutique, one of the people that was recommended was from Greenberg Tard. And having dealt with them in my prior life and the 8,000 lawyers in the firm, it's, God bless. And they didn't respond, thank God.
Yeah. So why don't we, maybe we should kind of talk about here, what we want our next steps to be around, like, it definitely feels like, Peter, to your point, like, we have so many questions, I feel like specific questions to bring to council, like, how do we want to move forward? It feels like we should try to meet up with this other person.
Yes.
Do we want to try to, I did get, proposed kind of fee structure from Miriam, which I, in the madness of the last few days, didn't realize was in my inbox. But she sent it promptly.
Yes.
I did not do anything with it promptly,
Okay.
so let's put that on me. So it does seem very, very reasonable. But, my suggestion would be perhaps we talk to this next person
Yes.
and then kind of bring both back to the next meeting and like kind of decide, just because what I would think that we'd probably want to move forward, because even once we made a decision, we would need to bring to the town board, they would need to sign off on the,
Well, I actually have a question for Amber that way, which is in terms of process.
yeah.
When would you want to get involved in our discussion? Let's, for argument's sake, say it's Miriam. When would you want to get into the discussion? How much interaction would the town board itself want to have? Would they want to meet on Zoom with her? How do we get?
Well,
How do we get the authorities that we can release funds?
we
Because that-
already actually, just so you know, I went through this with Amber and Christina already.
Oh, okay.
So basically, we would just kind of make a call, bring it to the town board for approval with some basic reasoning of why we wanted to do it, which we've already talked to the town board
Right.
about, and then they would just be able to sign off on the engagement letter. So it's pretty straightforward.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
We pass a resolution
Yeah.
to
Right.
engage them.
Yeah. That person.
Okay,
But
good.
there's only the one thing that's easy.
Is there a way for us to be a little more efficient though, so that we're not waiting month to month, so that, as you said, maybe you can get the next person in the next week, maybe you'll be able to talk to them and.
I'm hoping that next week we'll be able to have a Zoom
Right.
amongst.
So, I mean, and here's the thing is do we want to bring it back to the group? Do we want to like assign some subset to just, how do we want to, I mean, I literally.
I feel-
One thing I think would be, at this point, appropriate is to share this initial letter
Yeah.
with everybody.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
think that's
so how
great.
about this, what if we do, we'll share the initial letter, I can send over the engagement, and then maybe we'll do this, the paperwork that she sent over, and then maybe what we can do is you can share for the other person, so that basically, when we walk into the next meeting, we'll have all the materials and we can
We
decide
have
like,
almost nothing from her.
what, hopefully, the dream of dream
Right.
is, we could have everything in front of us so that we could decide like, hey, we could go into executive session or whatever and decide like, hey, we want to go this way, do we want to go that way?
Yeah.
And walk out in the next meeting with like, knowing who we're gonna
I
engage
think
with, because I can't even imagine how many more questions we're gonna have by.
The one thing I'm weary of,
Yes.
depending on what her engagement is. If her engagement is, this is gonna cost us $15,000, then great. If it's on an hourly basis, and we get to the stage where 8 of us are making individual off-the-cuff phone calls to ask questions.
We would have to have a
That gets
control.
very
We
expensive,
would-
right?
Yeah, so I will tell you that she did do, I'll send it around so everyone can read it, but it would be a blended rate with some hourly. So we would have to have, knowing that, we would have to have, like, basically we designate one point of contact.
Yep.
Questions go through that person.
Yeah.
That person is efficient,
Right,
deeply understands hourly billing,
yeah.
and
It's
either.
6-minute billing, right?
Yeah.
So, basically either we all do it together or one person does it, but not,
Oh
we
my
don't
God,
wanna-
no. Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah,
Everybody,
you know,
no.
Yeah. I had like 3 lawyers on retainer. It's like I just get killed every month, but
Yeah.
it's good. I feel very protected, so it's good.
Thank you, Bill. That's great.
Yeah.
It's
Or
really good.
David?
And you guys.
Is there, because I'm working on a project in Connecticut, and the Connecticut Housing Board, or the New Haven Housing Board,
Mhm.
has a non-for-profit, and I assume CDC-LI is similar, where they're getting affordable housing done with no, just through grants and
Yeah.
and things like that. And they have a process for it, and non-for-profit developers, and they have a list of lawyers, developers, construction firms, and the whole thing. And now it takes longer to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is there an equivalent, and is CDC-LI that equivalent, or is there another
Yeah.
affordable housing group?
So it's probably like CDCLI or the Long Island Housing Partnership are probably the 2 outfits that are the most similar to what you're describing that are operating out here on Long Island.
Because just working with them, I went from something where it's a $50 million autism project, and thinking we had to put in about $20 million in capital. And I had 3 phone calls and realized that it's 0.
Cool.
Those are valuable phone calls.
Right, no, and now it's a ton of work to get from here to there and rules and regs, but I just want to make sure, are we using the most cost-efficient process to do this? Because I'm obviously very worried that, the economics of this aren't going to pan out, and the more subsidies or grants or what have you that's sitting around, none of us do this every day. And there are people who do.
Yeah.
And so are we on the phone with those people?
Yeah. So, that's been the other cool thing. I'm just even like looking for the lawyer. I got on the phone with Gwen O'Shea from CDCLI and said,
Yeah.
hey, this is what we're working on. What do you think? And, so.
And she
And you got from East Hampton.
I got it from East Hampton, I got it from Southampton.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to like reach out to,
There are people who actually not only know more than us, but have more experience and
Yeah.
have more contacts.
but I think,
That's a long list,
Right,
right?
it's not
Yeah,
hard. to
yeah.
But I
know
mean,
what
just
it does.
locally, just
Yeah.
really within an
well,
arm's
and
reach.
I think where you're going to this, I think where you're going with this is like, how would it be for somebody like perhaps like CDCLI or Long Island Housing Partnership might be the person who comes in to do this.
Right.
I mean, I think that that's ultimately where you're going with it, right?
You call someone and Susan picks up the phone and says, oh, I'm doing the same thing in Quag. You do this, 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 and this, and, you know, I can get you this, and.
Well, and I think, and I
Apply for
mean,
that.
and I think here's the thing is, you know, we've been pursuing this path just because having kind of spoken with other municipalities, this has kind of been like the path that seemed the best fitting for us. But my hope is that in speaking to council about like basically how the potential RFP or agreements would be structured, that they might be able to give us advice on even if there was like a different arrangement, right?
Right.
Like, this is exactly what we need, because how that relationship is organized between us is what it's all about.
Yeah, finding those who have mission, because going back to what you said, those who have mission, they're not going to want to just put the money in for a 2-year treasury. They still need money because no money, no mission,
Right.
but they want, they still
have a
want
goal.
to, they have a mission.
Right, they want to have affordable housing, so, but I thought she was great.
Yeah, I
Good
thought
to
she was
know,
really cool.
really good.
High bar for the next person, but
Yes.
it's good. So we're at number 7 and Brand's not here.
Okay.
There was one other thing that I wanted to add and I forgot to, which was just to give you like a quick update on our monthly fund.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna insert that into the agenda right now. And basically we got a deposit of $7,650. So smaller month for us, and our current balance is $137,009.07. That's where we're at right now.
Nice.
So we could buy $2,000 plans and maybe we could.
Exactly.
We're not gonna spend all of it, but we got a couple dollar bills we can rub together.
That's good.
We can get a lawyer and the plans and a trip to Vegas.
The rest of the money.
Part of that sentence, dude, yes, yeah. Although, fun
Invested,
fact.
lawyer.
Yeah, no lawyer, yeah, exactly. Although, fun fact, next week I will be in Vegas. For an
You're going to be betting our money.
No, for an accounting conference, because
Oh
it's
my
gonna be
God.
like nerd central.
Oh
so
my God. And
get ready.
they chose Las
I mean,
Vegas?
it's like,
Yeah,
Oh
for a
my
bunch of accounting,
God.
talk about like tax credits.
Oh my God.
It's gonna be crazy.
One quick process
Yeah.
question,
Yeah.
because I don't want to assume the answer. For when we buy the plans,
Yes,
it would require to follow the same, or there would have to be a town resolution, correct?
That I have in my notes to double check, because it depends, I think.
See, that's why process is important.
Yeah, so it depends, I think, on which money we're using. If we're using the housing money, I think that's a different process. And so I think we wanna use that for bigger things, whereas we can use money in our budget.
Okay.
Yes, so that's an easier spend because it's already in the budget.
Got it.
And I'm also wondering, just before we go buying plans, we have like some preliminary pictures. Is there
Exactly.
something that we can do so that we can like bring in the public and just sort of like, this is what we're thinking, public, what do you think? Like,
I think
can't
that-
leave it to the public, but.
I think that would be where I was kind of going to, like, maybe we could curate an initial selection.
Exactly.
Yes.
Curating is the right word.
And bring, and just be like, make sure that we're kind of pulling together plans that like make sense, like financially, and like make sense like on the site, so we're not like showing something, we're like, well, this is cute, but it's actually not possible, so I hope you don't like it.
Right.
I mean, one of the challenges, if you really get into it, the most efficient cost thing are these 2-unit, 1 structure buildings on a single floor, and you can't make it look good, right?
Yeah.
It's just, but it's the most efficient and it doesn't cost much to build. And You could put flower pots on it, but
Yeah. A lot of like landscaping around
those
it.
three identical buildings, right?
Yeah.
And the cost savings comes from
Yeah,
right, having.
Scale.
Well, it's not just scale, it's the same build, same build,
Build,
same
same
build.
Yeah.
So you can order three, if there are 4 windows in each building, then you're ordering it 3 times, right? And it just, they build quicker, it costs less.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure there's a way to do them make them beautiful.
I guess we could paint and.
It might be a stretch.
I'm gonna figure out.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is, I think that they need to look like they fit in.
Yes.
that's
They can't be that
And-
they
and really-
look.
Yeah, and it's like, and
Yeah.
what it's really about is like, I actually would just say like, do they look like they fit in? And
Yeah.
when I think about that, that's probably finishes, right, on the
Yes.
outside. Are they using appropriate like colors so they kind of mix in?
Yeah.
And really what it's about, I know we're looking at the outside, but really what I think about is like some of the interior things, like how do they feel inside? Are we providing high quality housing for the
Totally.
community?
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't look like the most like architectural digest thing, is it like, does it have lots of light? Does it have big ceilings? Is it a good
good
place
floors?
to
Is
live
it-
and have a
Is it
family?
gonna last?
I would say is more important, but that's like my,
Right, I mean, having
with you
the
on that.
difference of a 10-foot ceiling and 9-foot ceiling, it costs almost nothing.
Yeah.
And
it's
yet it has a
huge.
very big feel.
Makes such a big difference.
So-
Yeah.
so I think, I think that the making sure, I don't know, for me, it's like,
And where it's plotted too, so
Yeah.
what's the design of those, are they right up against the tree lines and they're not gonna get any sun, or
Right,
where
right,
are they set so that
right.
they, how much light are they gonna get?
Okay.
then you could
But
turn
they're
them
not
different
gonna be
ways and do whatever, but yeah, I
We'll
mean,
look through those 22 things.
yeah, no, we'll get through it.
I'll send everybody
You send those 22
the
things.
links, but yeah, they're just.
Manage your expectations.
I shall. They are managed. Before I start,
I think we have much more flexibility on the single family
I'm sure,
sites
I'm sure
to
than
get
the,
something
than the
that,
duplexes.
than the single story thing, so.
But I mean, here's the thing is the 1 bedrooms, maybe they don't need to win Architectural Digest awards, they will be set back.
Mhm.
And that's a beautiful piece of land, so I think if there's like the wetlands in front, so I think that
I've
there's a way to
seen
make
some
like.
I have seen some really interesting stuff. So,
Well, it's not gonna be hard, I mean, if you compare it to Bard's Cabin next door,
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah.
we're not moving backwards, it's gonna
Right.
be well-built and
right,
and
exactly.
new and fresh and,
Yeah.
um,
Oh, there goes a little.
so.
Little guy.
Cool. All right. So I've got a couple follow-up things. So just as like, before we move on to old business, I'm just wanted to say that I'm going to follow up with CDCLI around communication and Mark and that community member that came forward. Bill, you're going to connect with the lawyer. Let us
And
know.
I'm gonna send out a copy
Of
of Miriam's
Miriam's letter.
response now to everybody.
I will send out the engagement, or, the other letter she sent me about the money. Words
Right,
are
yeah.
words are hard. David, you're gonna send out some links and maybe we can work out over email how to like pull together a curation.
Okay.
I think that's it,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's, oldie business,
Done.
done, cool. New business,
Done.
done, okay, neat. So does anybody have any questions that's here on Zoom or?
Pam and Kenny here.
Okay. All right, does anybody feel like making a motion?
Motion to
Make the
adjourn.
motion.
All right, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Bye.
See you guys in December. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Wow, December.